Hello. It is Wednesday for those of you keeping track in quarantine. I am Dr. Jordan Leasure. I'm the owner and physician of North Shore Proactive Health, a state-of-the-art wellness clinic in the northern Chicago suburbs. And today we are talking kids' health. So, if this is the first video that you have watched with us, say hello, say your name, where you're from, what drew you to the group. I can't believe we're over 300 people. I think it's awesome. The early videos are very specific. They discuss the neurology of stress, why stress is so impactful on the other aspects of our health. We're getting a little less technical today. We're talking about kids and wellness, what you can do to help them during this time, and hopefully that helps to decrease your stress as well. I have a lot of information to go over. I have notes. So let's jump in and get started. Say hello. If you're watching live, if you're watching the replay, let me know that as well. It helps me keep track of how many people we're reaching with these. I wanted to start with an interesting story. So I grew up in the northern Chicago suburbs, and when I was in kindergarten, I think, growing up, we ate healthy. There wasn't really, I don't think, any rhyme or reason, just our mother was smart enough to know at the time what to feed us. Hey, Kelly, thanks for joining. We didn't drink pop. We had pop in the house, but I honestly don't remember drinking pop as a kid. I think it was more for parties and social events. We didn't eat sugar. We ate home meals. I'm sure at the time that we probably had McDonald's here or there, because I still have the Happy Meal treats in storage that I'm paying $160 a month for when they go back on eBay for $1 million. So I have those, so we probably ate at McDonald's. But in reality, compared to a lot of individuals, we grew up eating very, very healthy. So thank you, Jan. I went over to a friend's house. Her name was Amanda. Her mother was a police officer. And if Jan's watching, she can probably tune in and tell us the woman's name and the girl's last name, and I could probably find her on Facebook and she could relate. But what happened was we went over after school, I'm assuming, for a play date, and the woman fed us hot dogs and Hostess cupcakes. Now, you may say, okay, like that's my go-to, that's what my kids eat. I will tell you right now, with my education, eating hot dogs weekly, and I think it's something like 12 weeks, I should have looked up this stat, increases your child's risk of leukemia. And nobody wants to hear that. That's legitimate. That's based on the way that our foods are processed nowadays. So you want to be really careful if that's something you do. But now back to me. So it was a few hours after feeding us these things, and Amanda's mother called my mother and said, "You need to come and get Jordan. She's out of control." Now, for a police officer to call another mom and say a child is out of control, I'm assuming I was a little berserk, and my mom just thought I was being a jerk kid, brought me home. I think threatened to spank me in the garage because Jade was a baby at the time and she didn't want me to wake up Jade. And literally I was out of control. I was like the Tasmanian devil. My mom had no idea what had gotten into me. And now looking back, a few years later, Jan was again wise enough to say it was probably because of all of the chemicals, not only in the hot dogs, but in the cupcakes. Now, that does not mean that that your child is never going to have another hot dog. It doesn't mean that, again, you or your child, and if you don't have kids, you will probably find this information relevant to yourselves. That you'll never have a cupcake again. But I want you to pay close attention, and maybe one thing you'll get from this is homemade food versus store-purchased food. Anything that comes in a wrapper, here's your one takeaway from today, just don't do it. I make all my stuff at home that Parker has as snacks, so I haven't done cupcakes yet, but I'm sure I could figure out a gluten-free, sugar-free way to do that and replicate the Hostess little white swirls. So, and I don't know if anybody can relate to that, to how you feel after eating or how your children react after eating, but there's a definite correlation to not only the sugar content of food that your children is consuming, but also all of the chemicals. There are things that, honestly, we should not be consuming. They may be safe individually, but they've never been tested altogether. And one of the big things that is most impactful for children when they're eating is artificial sweeteners and artificial colors. And little by little, luckily, those are being decreased and those are being banned, but they are still very, very readily available. So you want to make sure that as a parent, you're doing your due diligence and you are reading labels. That's really important. Now, your children's birth story, unfortunately, started even before they were born. So depending on how easy it was for you to conceive, whether or not you had assistance with that, probably laid the groundwork for your children's health and your health as well as it is displayed today. That's some of the functional medicine that we talked about earlier in the week that I practice. Those things are antecedents. Now, what do I mean by that? So I knew with my medical background and my luck in the man department that I was going to be having kids at a later age. So what I did was be very cognizant that every choice that I made was so that I would be able to not only get pregnant at a later maternal age, but also be able to have a healthy, safe pregnancy and deliver a really great end product, the baby. So I was very fortunate that those decisions, for those of you that don't know, I have a son named Parker, played out very well in my favor, and I continue to make very diligent choices to keep him healthy. So I'm speaking not only from a medical background, but I'm also speaking from experience, and now I can tell you there's no such thing as a terrible twos. It is I don't even know, throw yourself off a building threes, because Parker is multiple personality disorder right now. Anyway, I want to talk today about how we can avoid some of those things and how you can implement changes for your kids. So one of the easiest things before we get really specific, I want to touch on, if you have your paper, these are things that you can write down that you can start doing right now. So during our current situation is maintaining a schedule. We're going to dive deeper, like I said, into each of these things, but I want to get them all out right now. Maintaining a schedule for them. So even if this is technically spring break, and we'll go through different ages. So hop on and say, if you have a kid, how old they are so that I can target some of this. Because if everybody has a toddler, great. We'll talk a little bit more about toddlers. If everybody has a teenager, we'll talk about those challenges as well. So let me know how old your kids are while we're going through this. And even if you're doing this in a replay, let me know that and we can answer some questions offline. So maintaining a schedule is very important. So what does that mean? Make sure that they are going to bed at the same time every night, even if they don't have anything to do the next day, and make sure they're rising at the same time every single day. Just like I suggested yesterday to help you, make sure they're getting up and whatever their routine is, taking a bath, taking a shower, getting dressed. Parker is in like super pajama mode. So literally he gets out of his nighttime pajamas, puts on his daytime pajamas. He is a big fan of Spider-Man right now. And he has 2 pairs of Spider-Man pajamas that we are rotating and having to wash. So in addition to everything else going on right now, I'm having to do laundry like every day so that Parker has clean Spider-Man pajamas. So if you can relate, let me know. Also, keep their schedule consistent as far as meal times and what they're required to do each day. What does that mean? If you're spending your mornings, let's say, doing school-like work or educational programming online, keep that consistent. And then in the afternoon, if that's some free time for them, or they get to do like chats with relatives or Skypes with friends, try to keep that about the same time every day. And then keep your dinner time the same. And then, if you have family time or exercising in the afternoon or the evening, again, keep that consistent as well. Try to not do screen times before naps and before bed. And that goes for you adults as well. And unfortunately, I know our resources are a little bit drained at the moment. Our options for activities are limited, so we are doing a lot of things online. If you can use the blue light blockers, which you can have on your phone or a lot of times on your laptops as well. I use Lux, Lux, on my computer, and I have an Android phone. I use the blocker on that as well, not only in the evenings, but pretty much throughout the day. So you can give that a try, but if you can change what their activities are so that they are not using screens before naps and before bed, it will make it much easier for them to unwind and for their little brains to relax and actually get some restful sleep. Keep their water up as well. Because they are probably not as active as they have been, they might not ask for water. So it might be on you to make it readily available, and remember to not only drink it yourself, but make sure you're offering and sometimes, unfortunately, requiring that they are drinking more fluids. Clean eating. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, and we'll expand on what that means for kids and how to actually get them to do it. But if you're able to limit treats, limit sugary snacks, if you're looking to really make some behavioral, dairy and those artificial sugars and sweeteners and colors are some of the most impactful things that you can do for your kids right now. Keeping them socializing. This is kind of funny. Parker and I did a Facebook call with one of his preschool classmates the other day. They sort of did a digital play date, and it was a lot of fun. I'm going to try and do it routinely where there's, 3 or 4 of them on there so they can keep each other occupied and show each other their toys. But you can be doing that as well. A few apps that I'd recommend if you're not familiar, take a look at Duo. We use that. It's a live video chat, one person to one person. We also utilize Marco Polo, and this is kind of fun. I've seen some adults do this. I'm in that category where I'm not really on Snapchat. I use it to take funny pictures of Parker. I'm not on, those other platforms, but I like Marco Polo, and we use it more in a family way, but you can set up groups with friends where you can, do stupid videos and chats, and now, people can see if you're doing it live, and they can comment, and they've upgraded it so they can actually interact with you, so they can give you audio while it's going on. So check out Marco Polo if you haven't done that. And then, of course, doing, Facebook video calls. This is not just with family, but with friends too. It's important for them to maintain connections. Again, depending on the age of your children, maybe they have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Maybe they just started a relationship and now they're quarantined from that person for a month. So, I'm sure on their own, they're doing at that age, they're maintaining those connections. But as a toddler, they don't understand. They don't understand why they're not in school. They don't understand, and they don't know how to verbalize, that change in their routine. So it's nice for them to be able to connect with some peers. So you might want to give that a try. And set it up. Sometimes you're the one that has to pull the trigger, and then everybody loves it. So check that out and see what you think. Let's get into healthy eating, because I had a lot of questions after our last video about healthy eating for kids. So you want to make sure that they are eating protein-rich foods. And I have to tell you, I'm not a fan of cooking multiple meals for multiple members of the family. Unless you are on a very specific diet for medical restriction, let's say you're on an anti-yeast protocol, or you're on an elimination diet and you yourself or you and your spouse are cleansing, something extreme, I don't think that you should be making different foods for yourself and your children. And it doesn't matter what age the child is. 90% of the time, let's say, Parker's always eating what we're eating. And if he's not interested in what we have for dinner, then he's just going to eat fruits and vegetables. I'm not going to make separate food for him. And that's kind of what I'm sticking to. Kids are animals, and if they're hungry enough, they'll eat. Believe me, your child is not going to starve on your watch. You may have to put a lock on the pantry, but believe me, this works. A couple of options that you have for kids in order to get them enough protein. We will do milkshakes for Parker, and essentially that is a protein shake. I go between our Salutogenic Life whey protein and the vegan protein. He does both. He doesn't know a difference. And chocolate and vanilla, again, he doesn't know the difference. at least at this age. If your kid has a preference, of course, stick with that. And then I try to sneak in the vegetables. Now he wants to help. It was much easier and I could just make it and he would drink it, so I could hide spinach. Be careful with kale. Kale is very bitter and they'll taste it, believe me, even if there's one leaf in there. But you could do broccoli. You could do spinach, and again, I do that all frozen, and then you could let them pick out berries, and you could mix it up. So you could do everything from bananas and strawberries to blueberries and raspberries, and I like banana and peanut butter, sort of as a dessert one. So it depends on your purpose, but there are lots of options for shakes. So if you need recipes, just give me a shout out and let me know, and I'll give you something specific. Doing hard-boiled eggs is very easy. Whenever we buy eggs, we buy 2 dozen at a time, and I'll hard boil half of those and use them for myself, grab and go, and also use them for Parker. Same thing. If he's not interested in dinner, then I can pull out a hard boiled egg, and that's his option. Make sure that when you're buying eggs, you are buying prairie raised eggs. Quality of egg is very, very important because eggs are one of the 8 most inflammatory foods. And it's not necessarily the egg itself, but it's what the chickens are eating that are laying your eggs. So make sure you're doing those prairie raised eggs. It really does. Labeling in this situation really does make a difference. I've also done scrambled eggs with him, and again, when he was younger, I could hide vegetables much easier. We would do spinach, we would do red peppers. Now he's getting a little bit pickier, so that's a little challenging to get those vegetables in there, but that might be an idea for your kids if they're open to different colors, and switch it up because there are different phytonutrients in each color is indicative of a different phytonutrient in the fruit or vegetable, so mix it up for your kids. Unsweetened almond butter on toast with a banana. And again, we do gluten-free toast in our house. I do, I'll cut up the banana, pretend I'm making lunch for Elvis, and I'll put the peanut butter, or I prefer almond butter. You can make your own nut butters. It is super simple. Maybe we'll do a video on that in the future. If you have a high-powered blender, it's really easy. And Parker will actually also do almond butter and a apple is his go-to. There have been some days where he'll do 2 of those, and essentially that's what he eats. And that's okay, because the next day he'll eat like a firefighter and he'll eat an entire steak. So again, your kids are not going to starve. You can always do leftover proteins for your kids and mix it up a little bit. If you did chicken one night, saute it with something different, and they may not know that it's leftovers. And then again, I'm just a big fan of shakes. You can make a protein shake in about 2 minutes. They're easy on the go. So once you're out of your quarantine, protein shakes are one of my favorite go-tos. I really like, and I'm going to share this resource. It's something that I provide to a lot of patients. It's a graph of all the different colors, what they mean, and all the different fruits and vegetables that fall under those colors. So depending on the age of your child, you could pull that out, let them pick, because again, different colors, different nutrition values. So try that and see if that's fun and exciting for them. If they are currently allowed out to the store, you could bring them with and have them pick out a fruit or vegetable that you haven't used before, and then Google how to cook it, because again, a lot of us have some extra time. So that's fun. Kids like to be involved, and there's not a lot as a child, depending on their age, that they have control over. So if you're giving them a little bit of control over what they're eating, if you're giving them some choices, if they're involved in the cooking and the preparation, you may see an improvement in what they're willing to consume. Also, doing food in fun shapes, and I don't think it really matters what age you are. Jan used to cut us, we'd do like appetizers for lunch. So she'd make our sandwiches and then cut them, with fun cookie cutters, or do, like salami and cheese. I don't even know where. She probably still has these things, but they were little plastic. Anybody in the food industry probably knows what I'm talking about. Little plastic shapes, and you could layer meats and cheeses, for instance, and then cut those and put them in a toothpick. So you'd have like this little appetizer, and that's what Jade and I had when we were younger for lunch. So, if you make it fun, sometimes they'll eat it no matter what it is. So you could try that. Rotating foods is very important. Like I said, go through the colors, but also rotate your proteins. So if you're a family and for some reason you have dietary restrictions, the problem may be the quality of the food that you're buying. So grass-fed beef, is going to be better than regular beef. Again, the prairie-raised eggs, that distinction is very important. Wild fish over farm-raised fish. There's going to be a difference in the allergen content of those products. So if you're able to switch out and rotate some of those foods, you may be less apt to develop a sensitivity. What else? Oh, follow the one bite rule. So we have this with Parker, and I don't want to say that I'm manipulative, but I think you need to get creative when it comes to feeding your children, again, depending on the age. So we recently had this thing going with Parker where every morning and every night I'll ask him how his heart feels. And so, especially before bed, it's very fun. I'll say, how's your heart feel? My heart feels happy. In the mornings, for him, it's usually the same thing. I'll be honest with him about how my heart feels. And at this point, it's not always happy. But he did not want to eat last night. He ate a purple sweet potato and green beans, and he had a few bites of Italian sausage. He wasn't interested in the green beans. And so I said, would you please just eat one? And so he ate one, and I said, oh my gosh, baby, that made my heart so happy that you ate your green bean. And he looked at me and he was like, really? And so he literally, no joke, grabbed them by the handful and finished his green beans. So I don't know if that's going to work with a 15-year-old, but, use the tools you have. And sometimes if they understand the health benefits of some of these foods, they'll actually be more excited and more willing to eat them. Even if at the time they don't taste the greatest, they will develop a taste for them. And you might want to switch up your preparations. What else did we not talk about? Oh, teaching kids where food comes from. So this is kind of a slippery slope, depending on, if you're eating animal-based products. I don't know that all kids want to know that it's a moo or it's an oink. But learning about vegetables, learning about farming, learning what comes out of the ground and what comes from a tree, some of that is super interesting to kids, so you might want to explain that, and they might like that. If the weather ever gets nice here in Chicago, or depending on where you're watching from, if you have your own garden, we grew tomatoes last year with Parker, and that was the most exciting thing for him. He would come home, or he would go to Jan's house every day, and run in the house and run back to the porch and literally just pick the tomatoes off the vine and eat them. So you might want to try that. I also think it's important to set realistic goals. So for me, I recognize, and my husband has made this very clear to me, that Parker will not always eat as clean as he does right now. And I recognize that, but I also recognize that as a parent, it's my job to educate him on why we eat the way that we do and the impact that foods, both good and bad, have on our system, because sometimes, if we don't know that, we may choose that sugary snack because we feel good for a couple minutes without realizing that, if we eat the frozen cherries, then they taste good and our body feels good. So depending, again, on the age of your child, you may find that approach beneficial and also rewarding appropriately. So when we have special events, we tend to be attracted to some of those sweeter things, so birthday cakes and treats and things like that, and Halloween time. If you're able to limit those, set boundaries, and also make it fun if it's a birthday. So every year, Parker just turned 3. I've made his birthday cake or birthday pie sometimes, and they're gluten-free, sugar-free, and dairy-free, and they're awesome. I'm not opening up a shop, but for home baked for family, they taste great. So you may want to practice a few things, but try it. A lot of times, I won't tell people when I'm making something that is gluten-free, dairy-free, or sugar-free, and they like it, and then they realize that it's good for them. It's kind of fun. It's a little trick on my part. But there's lots of great tasting options, and if you're not into baking, there's some terrific resources probably right down the road from you. So you just need to know where to look. because nowadays, again, food sensitivities and modifying food choices is, I don't want to say it's hot, but it's very popular. And unfortunately, the quality of our food is very detrimental to our stomachs. And more people are realizing that they don't feel as good as they could be. So they're making those healthy options, those healthy choices. Let's talk about some environmental and dietary triggers to avoid. Now, some of these you will have more control over than others. Some of them you will need to utilize special equipment like water filters and air filters and things like that. But depending on how specific you want to get with you and your children's health, it may be worth investigating some of these options. We do some great testing in the office. I just finished an organic acid test on myself. You can do environmental tests at home on your air quality. You can search for mold. You can also take a sample of your water and have that tested as well to see if you require some of these different purifiers. So the reason these are especially important in children is because their brains are constantly developing. Chlorine is a big one you want to be avoiding. Utilizing water filters is important, and then limiting times in chlorinated pools and hot tubs. So what we do, Parker, like a lot of kids, took swimming lessons. So every time that we would go swimming, I would make sure to hose him off before and after. Now the pre-shower is more so that your body and your skin is absorbing clean water. It sort of acts as a barrier with your fat in order to keep that chlorine absorption minimized. And then immediately shower, and this goes for you as well, immediately shower when you get out of a hot tub or out of a swimming pool. You can get a whole home water filter, and that way you're filtering your water that your child is bathing in. And for some, depending on what part of the country you live in, that's very, very important. Be careful of dry cleaning agents. And for most of us, that's an adult thing. I don't think we're dry cleaning a lot of our kids' clothes. But depending on if you dry clean or if you professionally launder your bedding, that may be something that you want to take a look at. Oftentimes we will see children that have skin breakouts, and it's due to a change in cleaning products or home laundry. So always keep that in the back of your mind. Flame retardant materials. This is one that's kind of scary. All bedding is, most bedding is sprayed with flame retardant materials, so you want to be really careful. You want to, if possible, use organic bedding. And wear 100% cotton clothing. So again, if your child has skin sensitivities, that may be something that you want to look into. Fluoride. Here's a big trigger for a lot of people. Fluoride is actually detrimental. I think some of us, depending on how old you are, were taught that you should use fluoride toothpaste. And when you go to the dentist, they're going to put fluoride on your teeth. Fluoride is actually a neurotoxin. And especially in small developing brains, you want to be very careful how much fluoride they're exposed to. There are increasing levels of fluoride in our drinking water. So that, again, if you have a home purifier, we'll be getting that fluoride out. And also try to use fluoride-free toothpaste. We use xylitol toothpaste at home. It doesn't have any fancy flavor. It doesn't have any fancy color. I think ours is peppermint, but I like it. I use it with Parker, and it's been great so far. Aluminum. Be careful of aluminum. You can cook with stainless steel, ceramic, glass, or cast iron. And don't use aluminum foil or products that are packaged in aluminum. Avoiding nonstick cookware. Most of us know this by now, and that's part of the reason that the stainless steel and the cast iron is becoming so much more popular. That nonstick is actually very, very toxic. And use aluminum-free baking powder and deodorant. Anything to help eliminate fluoride. Do you have suggestions, Stacy? Besides, are you talking about like chelating it and detoxing it from your system, or are you talking about like a home water purifier? Let me know. We'll get back to that. Most of us know that you can get deodorant without aluminum right now, but did you know you can get aluminum-free baking powder? I didn't. So take a look at your baking powder. You would think, again, that you look at your little canister, it's just baking powder, and it's actually not. It actually will have some aluminum in it. So I think it's Bob's, and it's in a little bag. Oh, from the body. Yes, what are your suggestions? What's your experience? Stacy has some great experience in this. You can do different chelating agents, I believe, for fluoride. and making sure you're on a good quality probiotic, making sure you're having regular bowel movement so that you're getting it out once it's chelated. Those are some options for fluoride. But Stacy, if you have specific ideas, post them up there. Let me know. Other things to look for, use an air purifier, especially in your bedroom. Nowadays, our air, and especially if you're living in the northern Chicago suburbs where we have a few companies that are emitting some toxic gas. Just one more thing to worry about right now. You want to try to have an air purifier at home. Having plants in the house is fantastic. Avoid prolonged exposure to electromagnetic fields, which would be your phone, your computers, your televisions, things like that. Anything plugged in. If you can minimize that, it's great. Don't sleep with your phone next to your bed. I'm guilty of that more than I would like to admit, but buy yourself an alarm clock. And the same goes for your child. Your child should not be sleeping with an iPad or a phone anywhere in their room if you can handle it. If you can keep their bed away from electrical outlets, even, and nowadays there's outlets every, every 4 to 6 feet. But there's ways to go about that depending on how serious you want to get. They can sleep with a grounding mat underneath them, things like that. Avoid plastic furniture or flooring. Plastics are really bad all the way around. So if you, depending on the age of your child, don't let them drink out of plastic or eat out of plastic. I was very diligent with Parker. We used glass bottles for him when he was drinking milk. We use stainless steel bottles now that he's drinking water. And I try to minimize his use of plastics all the way around, especially for boys. Plastics leach estrogen, and this is important for all of us, but especially Dr. Google says zeolite helps. Yes, yeah, that's one of the chelating agents. That's a good option. So plastics are scary. Plastics are bad. Please don't eat on plastics. If you're still using a microwave, which I would highly recommend against, do not put anything plastic in your microwave. Do not put whatever you're heating up with that plastic coating and it says just lift and heat. Don't do that. Take the plastic off because heating it up and then the moisture drips all those toxins into your food and then you eat it. So be careful with that. What else can we talk about? Of course, that should go without saying, but keep your children away from cigarette smoke, from other environmental pollutants, dust mites, things like that. Now's the perfect time to clean. We all have a little bit of extra time. Teach your kids how to clean. They should be helping you maintain their living space as well. Some dietary triggers that are really, really big with kids. Hydrogenated fats. Instead of using, eating those processed foods, get your kids eating coconut oil. It's awesome. MCT oil is fantastic for their brain. Trigger warning, it may elicit loose stools, which for some, maybe you need that. If your kid's constipated, give them some MCT and they'll probably be running to the potty. But avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil, all of those are fantastic. Watch for the flash point of those things. They should be used at different flash points for cooking. What else? I give Parker, we do a liquid omega. And the 3 things that I think that every child should be taking as far as supplementation is a high-quality multivitamin, and again, depending on their age, will determine the type of multivitamin they should have. If you currently have your child eating a gummy, I'm going to tell you that 90%, maybe more than that, of the gummies out there are garbage. So be careful with the quality of the product that you're giving your child. Chewable is the way to go, or powder if your kid won't do, and it doesn't matter on age, if your kid won't do or your adults won't swallow pills, there are some options out there besides gummies. Gummies are probably going to have those that bad coloring, some artificial sugars in order to make them palatable, so just be careful with that stuff. Omegas are huge. Now you want to be doing omegas pre-conception forever. This is one that people should be doing forever. And the dosage is going to vary based on age. And for Parker, we do a teaspoon. I try to do about a teaspoon twice a day if I can remember. But it's a liquid omega. It's refrigerated, and he likes it. If I can get my husband to videotape him when I give it to him, he takes it and he goes, "Ooh, yummy," every single time he gets it, which is kind of funny because it is fish oil. And a probiotic. I apologize for the ringing. I'm at the office. And a probiotic. So again, probiotic dosage and type of bacteria is going to vary greatly depending on age. We do a powder for babies here, and that's up until, if Jade's watching, she can chime in. I think up until age 2, and it's called Baby Belly. It's refrigerated. Then we do a chewable for our toddlers, and then beyond that, our kids can do we have a powder or a pill, and it's what we use for adults. And obviously, you just change the dosage depending on the weight of your child. Hormones and antibiotics, you want to please stay away from these when feeding your children. Buy organic, pasture-raised, free-range meats and eggs. So there's lots of options. We had a couple people post in our chat earlier about doing some home delivery options for that, which is great. It's going to be cheaper. It's actually going to be cheaper if you can go direct to your local farms. And you might just want to Google it, because you might not know that there's somebody nearby that has some great resources when it comes to eggs, meat, local honey. You may have somebody right in your backyard. Or you may yourself if you're fortunate enough. And mercury, of course. So avoid high mercury, similar to what you would with red meat. I recommend not eating red meat more than twice a week and never 2 days in a row. Sugars and refined starches. Watch how much sugar they're eating if you're able to limit, and please read labels, because you would be shocked at how much sugar is in things as simple as condiments. So look at your ketchup. Look at your barbecue sauce, some of those things. And of course, basic things like candy bars. We don't do any of that, and it's I pray to God. And we're back. Who knows? Allergic foods. Watch. Children can be tested for food sensitivities just like adults. In our office, we do a blood spot. So all you need to do is prick the finger and color in the little blood dots. And then that can be tested for food sensitivities. Sensitivities are very different than allergies. I purchased some organic blueberries, and you can taste and see the difference. Yeah, totally, Chrissy. They're tiny compared to like marble size. So watch what your kids are eating and what they may be allergic to. And a food sensitivity will be displayed. You know, when we think of a food allergy, we think of anaphylactic shock. So our throat closes, you know, something like that. A sensitivity is very, very different. A food sensitivity, especially in a child, could be something as benign or appear to be as benign as constipation or stomach ache. It could be a skin breakout, a rash, or it could be behavioral difficulties. So if you're not sure, you may want to have your children tested for food sensitivities. Watch for excitotoxins. What is an excitotoxin? Something that is toxic. It causes an excited reaction, which could be caffeine. Think chocolate. I don't think your kids are sitting down with a latte, again, depending on the age. MSG. MSG is in a lot of things. It goes by a lot of different names, so you want to be really careful about MSG in food. Artificial sweeteners and dyes, of course, we talked about. Nitrites, sulfites, glutamates is a big one as well. Again, don't microwave in plastic. Avoid plastic water bottles if you can. And make sure they're drinking plenty of filtered water. We touched on fermented foods yesterday. And if you can get your kids to eat or drink fermented foods, I started Parker on kombucha this week, and I just asked him if he wants more tea. And he'll have a little bit, and that's plenty for his stomach right now. But that would be kombucha, coconut kefir, sauerkraut. Anything that's fermented is going to be great for the gut, and that's what we really want to focus on with these kids, is really healing their gut. Maximize their intake of antioxidants, things like that, and that's kind of the easiest rundown on food. I didn't realize that I was taking so long. I apologize, but we're about 40 minutes in already, and there's a couple other things I wanted to cover. So let's let's wrap up real quickly about being aware of your child's birth story. So, for instance, like I said, I was an older mother with Parker. He was born relatively quickly. We did a birth center in Chicago, and 6 hours after he was born, we were home. The next day, we were out at brunch, and I felt great. No medical interventions. I didn't have an epidural. I didn't have any pain medicine. I didn't have Pitocin. And he was breastfeeding. As far as things went, it was, as smooth as I ever could have imagined. And what you need to know about your own birth story is there's no right way to do it. There's a way that you want to do it. There's the way that it turns out, and that is what it is. But being cognizant of that fact and being able to modify your children's health accordingly is very, very important. So in an ideal world, a child is conceived, obviously. A mother is exposed to the minimal number of some of those aggravating effects, the toxins, like we talked before, as minimal of those as possible during pregnancy, eating very clean, taking probiotics, having a very healthy, stress-free pregnancy. Then mother ideally, again, does not have any antibiotics during this time, delivers the baby vaginally. Again, this is an ideal world. The baby is immediately placed on the mother, not washed, not touched extensively by medical personnel. And then the baby is able to breastfeed. And then the baby is washed at a later date. Now, why do I say that that's ideal? Well, 80% of our immune system, and this is why this is very relevant to what we have going on right now, 80% of our immune system lies in our gut. Our gut is responsible for how we feel emotionally, what's going on with our immune system, things like that, and also how our brain works. There's a very intricate connection between our brain and our gut. So all of that starts, again, even before the baby takes its first breath. So if you can relate and your birth story or your child's birth story was not as picture perfect as that, if maybe you took antibiotics during your pregnancy, if your child was born via C-section, if your child had to have antibiotics, or if your child has since had antibiotics, you want to be making sure that you are very diligent in the type of probiotics that your child is given, the type of food that your child is given, and minimizing their both internal and external stressors, like we talked, their perceived and their real stress, because all of that will impact their gut, which by association will impact their brain. And I know that that's the one thing that all of us want to take care of, is make sure that we are raising and that we ourselves are happy and healthy individuals. So be very, very careful with making those appropriate modifications. And if you're not sure how to do that, of course, my recommendation would be working with a functional medicine physician. We are doing a lot of telemedicine right now with patients so that they don't even have to come in the office. So if you want to do a breakdown on your kids, that's something that we can do one-on-one so that you have the tools to integrate some of this specifically for your child's needs. Take a look at, again, making sure that they're taking a multivitamin, an omega, and a probiotic, that you're looking at what they're eating, how they're sleeping, and that they are socializing regularly. If your child, this is one pain point of mine, if your child is athletic and your child has ever had a concussion, that concussion, no matter the degree of the concussion, obviously the worse, the more important this information is. And a concussion can happen at 5 miles an hour in a car. That whiplash also causes concussive force to the brain. Or again, if they play sports and they've had a legitimate run-in with someone, this is very important information. But you want to make sure that you have taken time to heal their brain, specific steps to heal their brain from that, as well as their gut. Because if they have had any sort of concussive symptoms where they are dizzy, seeing double, if they passed out, if they're feeling nauseous, they need to be of course, evaluated by a professional, but then given a very specific supplement protocol, and it's too extensive to get into on this video, but extensive supplement protocols and nutrition protocols that are going to help heal the brain and heal the gut. Because if they've had one concussion, they're more apt to have multiple, and that concussive damage can lead to additional neurological issues as they age, which again, we want to make sure that we can take care of that, the younger the better. So your homework today, are you ready? I thought of the best thing in the entire world. All of us, assuming most of us, maybe it's just me. If it is just me, I have a way to get around this. have random cards at home. So I'm a big card person. Give me a thumbs up or a shout out if you know what I'm talking about. I think people should have cards for every season, every reason. Growing up, Jan would give us cards for like St. Patrick's Day and Columbus Day. I don't know, random stuff. So your job is to find the most fabulous card that you have at home. For me, this is the best one I could find. There's some other really good ones too. And you're going to send that to somebody on your contact list. That's a pretty good one, right? So my promise is the first 5 people to private message me, don't post it here, private message me your address. You're going to get a random card from me. And the more inappropriate, the better. And what do I mean by that? Do you have a card for an engagement? Do you have, hold which one up? The cat? A card for an engagement? A card for a baby? Happy Easter. Well, I guess we're close, so that one doesn't count. Happy Halloween. However random the card, if it's in Spanish, if it's in Polish, however random the card may be, pick a card and send it to somebody in your contact list. And it's even better if they don't know that that this is coming. It's going to be that much more fabulous. And all you need to write on it is this the one you're talking about? This is pretty amazing. I know. I'm not going to show it again because somebody's going to get that. Send it to somebody in your contact list. Write in it, that this is their quarantine card, that you wish them well. You know that they are going to thrive during this time. And then I want to see, when people start getting these cards, I want to see pictures of this posted online with the hashtag card challenge. And I think that this would be awesome. It'll brighten somebody's day. They're not expecting a card. Especially maybe make it appropriate if you're sending it to somebody that's in a nursing home or an assisted care facility, because they may not know what's going on. And if they get a, congratulations on your baby boy card, they might not quite get it. But I was motivated to do this because I just received a wedding anniversary card from my husband's grandmother's best friend, who is still living and in a nursing home in Dixon, Illinois. And I thought I was pretty good with sending people cards, but she sends us cards for everything. She sends Parker cards with a $2 bill in them. It's very fun. So send somebody a card. Write in it, whatever you're feeling to be uplifted. And the first 5 people to send me their address are getting some random card from me. We'll see. So I hope that you found this informative. Again, there's so much to talk about when it comes to kids' health. We'll probably do another chat because I wanted to talk a little bit more about how much they should be sleeping and what else? Specific probiotics kids should be taking, what strains to look for, sleep duration, and sleep hints. So maybe we'll do something on better sleep. But when it comes to kids, remember, they're little people. They need to be doing the same types of things that you're doing for yourself. Give them a little bit of their time. I don't have a Thunder from Down Under card, so you're not getting that from me. So shout out to everybody that's watching. Good luck with that. And if you don't have cards at home, if you're still going out and buying your groceries, then run through the card aisle. I don't expect you to shop. I want you to literally pick one off the shelf without realizing what section you're in, and then you get to send that to a friend. So give that a try and see. I think that this would be a lot of fun. Brighten somebody's day, because again, think of the people living at home. We have unique challenges because we are attempting to work from home. We are attempting to work from home with children, but we also have the camaraderie of probably being with our spouse. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. Being with our kids, same goes for them. But think about, there's some people that are quarantined by themselves, and I don't know how well some people are handling that. So maybe you can pick somebody out from your contact list that falls into that category and send them a funny card and brighten up their day. So thank you for watching. As always, if there are specific questions, please let me know. And please don't integrate any of my recommendations without speaking with your physician. And if you don't have a physician, I'm available. So sign up for an individual session with myself or Dr. Jade. Again, I love you all. We will get through this one way or another. And I will see you tomorrow. I haven't decided on a topic. So if you have questions or if you have concerns when it comes to stress management and how it is impacting not only our emotional health, but our physical health and our immunity during this time, please let me know and we will cover it. Have an awesome day. We will talk to you tomorrow. Mwah! Bye.